tonight at Madison Square Garden. What an amazing game again. But unfortunately this time, the Rockets come up with the short end of the stick and lose it 124-118 for the first time this season. The Rockets have lost 3 straight games.
Ew.
I think it's a valid way to put it, Paul.
Thank you.
Ew.
Ew.
Gross.
Yeah, why are you wearing a Rockets hat in studio today?
Great question. Just grabbed one on the way out the door.
You do look fetch.
Thanks.
You got your Coug shirt on.
Yeah.
Stash is extra stashy.
Jordans that
You
don't match.
Ooh, but you are wearing Jordans.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just wearing some Cole Haans right now. Sean's looking as Sean always does. Welcome back, Sean.
Thank you.
That is a compliment.
Okay.
That is a compliment. But last night, the Houston Rockets looked like a big old steaming dump in the fourth quarter. 11-point lead going into the third. You get that Amen Thompson incredible and one dunk to wrap up the quarter. And I'm thinking to myself, hell yeah, the fraud-ass Knicks doing what they do best, being absolute frauds, because that's what they've been their entire existence. And I was getting ready to send a couple of messages to my delusional Knick fan friends who think that that team is ever going to be good. Next thing I know, Jalen Brunson has somehow scored about 45 points or so, and the Rockets are looking up at the scoreboard at the end of the game.
Yeah, Jalen Brunson was incredible in the fourth quarter. That was a tough fourth quarter for the Rockets. 46 points. That's a lot of points to give up in one quarter, especially by a team that prides itself on basketball, on good basketball defense.
Defensively, right. The Knicks shot 63% in the fourth quarter. They had 80 points in the paint in totality. So, at the very least, after a very disappointing loss, the Rockets' third straight, their longest losing streak of the year, I'm glad that you got a guy like Ime Udoka to talk about the way things ended and throw in our favorite Ime Udoka word.
You were trying to make some substitutions and find somebody who could guard. Did you see anything that you thought was working well?
I mean, a few guys, but not enough. Even our, supposed defenders got cooked tonight.
Even our supposed defenders got cooked tonight. And there's another word as well that he dropped. And we'll get to the Rockets' struggles in the fourth quarter, which has been an all-season issue. But more Ime Udoka on the Rockets.
I don't think it was rim protection. I think it was one-on-one defense. They have a 46-point quarter. We scored 29. We scored 118. We scored enough points to win. But very soft and uncompetitive defensively, and they're just going at us one-on-one, and we're complaining about offensive fouls, not boxing out, not doing our assignment, getting back cut, off-ball actions, and that adds up to 46. And so scored enough to win.
Called him soft, said there was too much bitching.
God, he is the, from what I know about you, Paul, now, he is the perfect coach for a team that you root for.
Yeah, I love it.
Like, he is the perfect, he's the perfect coach for anyone to call out your players, like, pretty direct but indirect shots at, I think, both Amen Thompson and Dylan Brooks there. And I know people have been, like, gassing up Jalen Green's pick and roll defense there in the first clip we played. Feel like that's another shot at him for the defense. But then to call out, the begging for offensive foul calls, it was brutal. It reminded me of the James Harden Rockets a little bit in the fourth quarter last night. I got those vibes.
I agree. Totally agree. It's not just defensively, the lack of effort. It's also Jalen Green out of control, driving through the lane, not getting foul calls. And the Worrell Army rose up in unison online. The Rockets fans who constantly whine about the refs too, whine about the refs. Some were even suggesting that Jalen Green flop going forward. Bias Houston is the worst Twitter account in Houston sports that hasn't blocked me yet. He is absolutely awful. Same guy who said that, yeah, I think I'm going to root for the Lakers after they once again trade raped another team into getting the best player in the league. Now here he is saying, yeah, I think Jalen Green needs to flop a little bit. Nope. I'm glad Steven Silas is gone, and the Rockets Little Kids Club going to have to go back to timeout. Going to have to go to the little kids table again. I can't deal with your crap. I need Ime Udoka to get you people to come in and run suicides. I hate these people. I hate them. Hate them, hate them, hate them. And I like that he's in charge instead of these little puss children who are constantly whining about how this Rockets team, like, oh, they got to get star calls and they need to flop and all this stuff. I hate it. Hate it, hate it, hate it. And I'm glad Ime Udoka is leading the charge. And now the real question is, after 3 games lost in a row, are the Rockets going to be able to pull out of a nosedive? This was bound to happen sooner or later, but do these guys have the sack to go up and tonight against Brooklyn do what they couldn't do over the weekend against Brooklyn?
Yeah, they have to. You don't want this thing to unravel. And we know Fred VanVleet now is week to week, and that's a huge problem. Like he is the point guard for this team. They are a worse basketball. As much as I don't love Fred, the basketball player, like I think the Rockets can do better. I think at some point they will do better, but they miss him a ton when he's not out there.
Yes.
And just the organizing of the offense to be under more control more often as a team. It feels like they just play more reckless basketball when he's not out there, and he can be guilty of it when he is out there, but they're worse when he's not there. And now you're not going to have him for who knows how long. Week to week, he could be back next week. It could be a month. Like you don't know how long these things are going to play out. Now, to have that game, without Alpi, without Jabari, without Fred, it should feel like a positive, but you were terrible in the fourth quarter. And just because Fred, Alpi, and Jabari are out there, it doesn't fix your defensive issues, because it's not just about the closing and who's getting the final shot and not having a closer on this team or Jalen Green being reckless. At the end of the day, it was a defense problem. And there are guys out there that are supposed to play great defense, and they didn't do it last night against the New York Knicks. They totally forgot who they were in the fourth quarter. And I know the fourth quarter problems have been a thing all year. It is really strange when you look at the numbers to think that this is a team that has, I think it's still 19 clutch wins on the season, that they've been that successful with some of the fourth quarter issues they've had. But yeah, all of it. I please don't be asking guys to flop.
No, I hate that. That is the past. That is not what this team is about.
It's not going to work.
Jalen Green's never going to be a superstar. Let's just get that out of the way. Could he be a star someday? Sure. Superstar? No. Guy like Jalen Brunson, he's on the borderline, and he's going to get a lot of calls. And yeah, he was flopping a lot last night.
But he also, it's also about control. Jalen Brunson goes to the rim with body control. He is not flailing before the contact is even made.
Yeah.
Where I think with the way Jalen attacks the paint, it can work sometimes, but you're not going to get those calls as frequently when you're totally out of control.
He does that a lot.
Because if you're out of control, the referee can't tell when you're fouled and when you're not. If he goes in with being more stiff a little bit, it'll be easier to tell when he gets fouled. He's just not going to get those calls, and the way he does it's not making it any easier on the refs.
It's once or twice a game where he does this, and I like the effort he's putting in on the defensive end, and I do think he's improving under Ime Udoka, but there's clear pitfalls with his actual game, whether it's some nights he's just going to brick everything from outside, and it's that. I feel like there are moments where he tries to do a little bit too much, and it lends itself to that. And God, I just hate that Rockets fans are like, well, maybe he needs to start flopping. And that a lot of people agreed with this.
I know.
That to me, it just bothers me to my core. It's unmanly. It's there's no honor, first of all, but it's unmanly to flop. We're America. We are not Italy. We are not all these soft ass countries that we had to kick the ass of in World War II. No, that's not us. It's never who we're going to be. If you're open to that, honestly, we should deport you. I'm cool with the illegals staying here. I'm cool. Let's deport you. You are making us softer as a country. Okay. So watch out. I have put in a request just now with ICE. They're going to come after you. I'm from this country. I've never lived anywhere else. Tough, you know whatsies. Okay. Can't say that. Tough, you know whatsies. You're gone. Can't handle it.
Especially because I can almost guarantee you that these people who are asking for Jalen Green to flop are probably the ones that were still freaking out about Mahomes and his slides and his flops. Capital H hypocrite.
There's definitely got to be.
Yeah, you got to pick a stance and stick with it.
What's the circled things where they intersect? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, the Venn diagram?
Venn diagram.
Is that right?
That's
yeah,
it.
okay, yeah.
Thank you, Joe. Bailing me out here. Yeah, the Venn diagram. There's for sure a commonality there. And we'll talk about, by the way, the refs going into this Super Bowl. This city has been done such a disservice by Bill Worrell, legendary broadcaster, but the whining about the referees in basketball. It's unbecoming. And now some of you guys actually want to flop to create more bad calls from the referees. Speaking of hypocrisy, Ime Udoka was asked about the Rockets' struggles to close teams out. Here he is.
At times it's not scoring enough. At times it's obviously not getting stops like it was tonight. Most of the time it's been due to poor scoring fourth quarters. That wasn't the case tonight. 29-point quarter, 118 for the game, and 11-point lead going into the fourth quarter. We talked about that recently, looked at our month of January, all the leads that we've gained, and then haven't been able to maintain. And so that's where we got to obviously get better, especially in the fourth quarter and close games.
So, second best team in the Western Conference, right? One of the best records in the league. 24th in fourth quarter margin this year.
Whew. That ain't gonna work.
It adds up. And you take a look at the actual numbers. They're not as bad as you would think. It's -1, but that's something -1.1 or something like that. But at the same time, we're still talking about a team that ranks 24th in the fourth quarter. You're in the same conversation as Philadelphia, Portland, Washington, Chicago, Toronto, and Utah.
That's a really bad group to be a part
Those
of.
are all really bad teams.
Yeah, so it doesn't look that bad if you just look at the number itself, but when you put the teams next to it, it's pretty terrible because those are some of the worst teams in the NBA that were just listed around the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is part of the reason why the idea of not trading anyone this year does make some logical sense, because this is what you're learning. This is what you're learning about your basketball team. This is what's the most important about the future of the Houston Rockets is what happens in the final 3 minutes and the final 12 minutes of a basketball game. Who's in, who's out, who can play defense, who is a real closer, who is not. That's what the Rockets are trying to learn this year. And in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, feels like every game is coming down to these moments. And you're really, I think, some of these guys are getting exposed a little bit for what they are in the fourth quarter. I think Jalen Green specifically, just with him offensively and defensively, and the fact that Amen Thompson, who can't really shoot the basketball for the third time in the last week, is being asked to be the guy to take the final shot.